Welcome to the Carbon Box Media YouTube channel. Today we are talking about campaign product feed. This is a big topic. A lot of people ignore it, but today we're going to tackle it. I'm here with Franthony. He's our head of Google Ads. So we're just going to rip and roll. Franthony, before we jump into the topic, give the audience a brief introduction on yourself.
All right. So, hey everyone, my name is Franthony. I'm the head of Google Ads here at Ecommerce Media. I've been running Google Ads for the last five years, predominantly in e-com and the lead gen space. And I've spent up to $15 million in ad spend at this point.
Awesome, man. That's really significant, man. And I can speak to your experience. You're a killer. Every time you dive into account, you always impress me. So, yeah, man, let's jump into it. Let's talk about campaign product feed. Franthony, in your experience, just tell us about campaign product feeds.
Yeah. So the product feeds specifically revolve a lot around Google Merchant Center. And what I notice in a lot of the accounts that we audit, or some of the accounts that we inherit when we sign new clients, is it's basically neglected, right? So a lot of agencies and a lot of brands as well, when they're running, their shopping ads, they just either don't optimize the feed because it's an extra layer of work, or they, yeah, again, like I said, they just completely ignore it. So in our experience, one fundamental way to improve your shopping performance is through product feed optimization. And what is that exactly? It's basically optimizing your product titles so that they respect some of the SEO fundamentals on the Google Shopping end. To be more precise, if you're selling a product, let's say you're selling a dress, and on your website, your dress is called the only one. Well, in Google Shopping, that product title is not giving Google any indication of like what the product is, where to find it, right? So your product feed is summarizing all of the relevant and important informations about your product, right? So some of the attributes are like size, what gender it's for, the color, the material, the weight as well. So some of those are some of like the basic attributes that you can add inside of Merchant Center. You can also add your GTIN, you can also add your MPN, like the list goes on, right? But in terms of optimization and actually getting your ads to be triggered for the searches that you actually want, you need to tell Google that. And the way to do that is by optimizing your product titles. So one structure that we recommend, and this is like a general structure depending on what industry, and it may vary, but the general rule is you wanna have the keyword that you're targeting at the start of your product title, right? So again, going back to that example, if your dress is called the only one, but it's a white dress, and it's particularly for summer, so you'll go to Google Keyword Planner, you'll look at the top performing, like the keywords and the search terms that have the most volume, and you're going to want to add that at the top of your search, right? So just to give you an example of what that may sound like is, you'll write, so on your website, the name of your product is the only one, but on Google Merchant Center through shopping, you're going to say that is going to be white summer dress, size L, the only one, and then the name of the brand. That's like a very basic example of how you would want to structure. But as you can see, in this case, you want to add the keyword that you're targeting at the start of your product title so that you can indicate to Google, hey, this is what I want you to trigger my ad for. So that's at a high level. I mean, I can definitely go and go on a rant about it, Brandon, but I'm going to stop there and see if I didn't lose you there.
No, that was great, man. I think the bottom line is I think sometimes people are so close to the brand, they're thinking about it from their perspective, but in
Yeah.
reality, like you got to think about it from how is your customer going to find this? Google's literally designed to be a discovery engine for people, and unless you are hyper specific, you're not going to get discovered. So that was a really good breakdown for Anthony. What I would like to do now is maybe you could share screen and just show some examples of like just well-written product titles. I think it's helpful for people just to see specifics where examples of things, doing it right, of people
Yeah,
doing it
of
right.
course. So I can share, one of our worksheets and actually share one of our existing clients that we
Sure.
optimize their titles for, and we're able ever since we've been seeing really good performance. So I'm gonna share the story of Bijou Bill and how we're able to improve the results by product title optimization. Here's a quick backstory on Bijou before we get into it. So Bijou Build, it has created a play structure that's designed for families that doesn't take up too much space. What we identified is that in their industry, most play structures are either made for family parks or just big houses that have like a lot of space. So their play structure is expandable, collapsible, and you can add more parts to it, right? So it's a really unique product, and it doesn't exist, right? So that's why it was called the Bijou. So this product is great, based on the name, it's called the Bijou Build Mainstay. This is basically what I was talking about when I gave the example of the only one, is that although this is a great product title, On Google Shopping, it doesn't give you any indication. It doesn't give Google at least any indication on what ads, what search terms will trigger our ads, and who to actually search for. And this is where we work on our product title sheet, very basic sheet, where we look at the titles and we update them. Obviously, we haven't kept track of all of the dates, so definitely don't take this into account. And what we're doing here is just testing different variations of the product title, right? So, for example, this one has been the one where we've seen the most success. So, before we wrote the product title, we did two things. We did keyword research and competitive analysis, right? So, looking at what competitors are writing in their product titles and what also they're not writing, and also looking at what can we put in our product title to, one, let Google know who to trigger ad for, and also provide as much information as possible, right? Key thing to take into account is that your product title is limited to the first 150 characters, and the first 75 characters are the ones that Google is going to really prioritize. So in our case, we wanted to target outdoor placeit because we saw that this keyword had thousands, if not, in the 5 6 figure range in terms of monthly searches. And this is what we want to appeal for because no one's searching for bijou, right? That's really important. No one knows bijou at this point. Like it's not a known brand. So how can we get in front of new users who are searching for the product and present them this great product? So this is where we went and played around with it. Outdoor play stat. So this is the keyword. We're letting Google know, hey, this is what we're going to target. Customizable outdoor TP playtent. This is another way people search it. And we just stacked the keywords in here. And then at the end, we put the name of the brand because we don't want Google to prioritize the brand name. Here, you'll see examples where when you do put the brand name at the beginning, you notice that Google tends to favor your brand name. And when we want to test, for example, a branded shopping strategy, where we want Google to trigger our shopping ads specifically for our brand name, this is one way to do it on top of, having a dedicated exclusion list for those keywords, right? And again, going back to the website, as you can see, this is just the name of the product, right? Here we're providing a lot more information. So this is something we do for every single client that we work with. In our onboarding, we have you fill out a Google Merchant Center form, and we just analyze the product titles and look at the opportunities that are being missed. Some brands do it on the website. They have a SEO optimized product title already on the website, which facilitates Google's algorithm to scrape the website. Some don't, and this is where we handle it on the Google Shopping side, right? So that's just a quick breakdown of what it looks like, how we did that. Curious to know if you have any questions there, Brendan.
No, I think that was a really good breakdown. I think for me, like the biggest takeaway is like it's every product title is so important, making sure those first 75 characters are optimized. Because if you're not doing it, your competitor's doing it, and it's like you're literally losing sales by not like having this properly optimized. And one thing I'd say I love about what you do and your team is like you guys really care about the details. And I've seen it in your work, and is like you guys are always trying to find these like new ways to optimize and improve customer titles and everything. So I think it's really cool what you're doing. Is there anything else about campaign product feed that like you think is important to share or like you want to break down for people?
Yeah, I think if I can give, just a small tip, because we have, a wide variety of brands that are working with us. So we have, like the smaller brands, we're spending under 10K, under 5K, and we have some brands that are spending, 6 figures a month with us consistently. For the smaller brands, when you're starting out on Google, you want to do the fundamental work first. And what do I mean by that? When I audit accounts, I audit like smaller accounts. So for us, a small account is an account spending under 10K and going as low as under 5K. So we'll just cap it at under 10. I often find this setup, PMAX and a brand search campaign. But then when you go inside of the PMAX campaign, it's just basically, it looks like Google set up the account. And with that setup, if you don't, even if you use a PMAX campaign, right? Because, and for those who don't know what a performance max campaign is, it's Google's, I would say most recent campaign type, going back now, they launched it about 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, about 3.5 years ago. And this campaign types allows you to target every channel, right? So search, shopping, discovery, display, and YouTube, right? Simultaneously, that's Google's promise. And a lot of brands default to that to get them success. And it's basically a shortcut for people who are lazy. Like I'm just gonna say it, like people who, when you're building out an account, if you're spending under 10K and you're starting out with a PMS campaign, you're lazy. Because the truth is, when you're building your account, you need to do what I call the fundamental work, which is the SEO work. And a lot of brands ignore SEO at an early stage and they dive directly into ads. That's fine, but the mindset still has to be there. So regardless of what niche you're in, if you're an e-com brand and you want to scale Google Shopping, I highly recommend that you go to use Google Ads, go to the keyword planner, look at the keywords that are the most relevant to your product that have the highest volume, and then go to Google Merchant Center and include those keywords in your product title. If you don't know how to structure your product title, just go and do a quick Google search or a quick AI search and ask how to like general rules for structuring product titles and do that work before going the PMAX route. If you do that, you will save yourself a lot of wasted ad spend and you will also collect better data, right? Because when you actually know when you actually put the keyword that you want to target, you actually see how people are searching and what they're actually typing, right? So my general tip is spend more time building your foundation before you start to spend your ad dollars because Google will gladly take your money. Like that's what I tell all of our clients. It doesn't matter if the campaign is set up correctly or it's not, as long as it's able to spend, Google is going to spend that and they're not going to care about the points that I just mentioned. And I see a lot of brands just losing thousands of dollars, every week. We audit like, 2 to 3 brands a week, easily, even more in certain weeks. And it's a common mistake that keeps coming back. So again, if you're watching this video, take the time and go and look at your Google Merchant Center product feed and see what's actually in there. If you have an agency managing your account, ask them about it, right? And if they're not bringing this up, if they're not optimizing this, again, they're lazy, right? So I'll probably, yeah, that's definitely my nugget.
That is a great nugget, and I think um, you know this is why we do what we do, right? It's not so cut and dry. It's not you don't just open your Google account and launch a PMAX
Yeah.
campaign and become a millionaire. It's not how it happens.
Yes.
So uh, we if this I hopefully you found this valuable. Hopefully there's some information here you can take away with and implement in your account, and so you can win. If this is something where you're like, wow, this is intimidating, I need help, or wow, this is a lot of work, I don't want to do it myself, in the description there is a link where you can book and talk with us, and we'd be happy to audit your account and just work with you and collaborate. Franthony, is there anything else you want to add to the video? If not, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll say like, comment, subscribe. You'll definitely be hearing more from us in regards to strategies and tips that you can implement in your Google Ads account if you're running it yourself. So definitely stay tuned and subscribe. Yeah, definitely hit the notification button.
Hit that notification button. We'll see you soon. Until next time.